Is it messed up yet?
He said we're good.
Good to
He
go?
said we're good to go. Awesome, guys.
Good.
Welcome to
Sweet.
Hotshot and Hindsight number 3 with the one, the only Load Mizer, my dude. Straight savage. Guy knows a ton about hot shotting and car hauling, which is in right now. We're going to talk about all that tonight. So I want to thank everybody who's in the chat right now. But first off, Load Mizer, explain to us how you even got into the trucking business. How did that even come to happen?
How I got into trucking in general. Let's see. So when I got out of the military in '04, um, I was in I was in Germany for a while. It was always a dream of mine to move to Colorado. I'm actually from Kentucky, and I had the opportunity to move out there. Starting on kind of the oil field ordeal, and bounced around. Got really interested in computers. Moved to New York City.
There you
Actually
go.
lived in Brooklyn for 2.5 years. Yeah, and went to a school there. Got a few certifications under my belt, and wound up since it was so competitive in New York. I wound up doing cable for for a while. Um, so I was a cable tech for a while. Got tired of New York. Moved to the further extreme of that. Lived in Maine for a while, and then got done with. I was tired of the cable game. Really, I mean, it wasn't what I wanted to do in the first place. But between when I moved back home in 2009 from all that, and between the oil rig job, all the cable stuff, and just a lot of my earlier jobs in general, there was one constant with all that, and it was driving. A lot of driving jobs all the time, and it just something kind of clicked. It was like I want to check this out. I started really studying everything, and saw how at the time in 2009 saw how easy it was to jump on with a company. They'll pay for your school as long as you drive for them. Most instances back then it was for a year. So I figured out, I think that'd be easy. So I went and did that. The 300-mile drive to the school. That was a 3-week school. That it like freaked me out because I'd never like gone distance like that with no point, and with like no return anyway. It's like I'm going out here and I'm gone. It was kind of strange because I wasn't familiar with that area. It was not a place I had gone a lot before. So it was like my first glimpse. And then this was all pre, GPS was out, but it was all for cars and stuff like that, right? So I mean, we're back into like the end of the Atlas type deal, where you used to have to go buy a Ram McNally at a truck stop every year. Um, so it was kind of cool, and like even that part was intriguing to me. I was really interested in the way it all worked, and went through driving school, started driving, and it's a trap. It's really easy to get hung into this industry because I mean, if you pay attention, you do get good at it. And when you get good at it, you get comfortable in it. No matter if the things surrounding it you can't stand, it's like there's like a little bubble in there that you're comfortable with because you become very good at what you do. And that's it. And here, what, 12 years later now, here I am still doing it on a different scale, but it's I think there's been there's been one job that I had since I got my CDL that wasn't a driving job, and it lasted 6 months. I started off with flatbed, or not flatbed. I started off dry van. Um, did dry van for a good stint. Got a local job uh, after the whole dry van stint of delivering for Lowe's, flatbed semi. The all the decking material and stuff like that, which was pretty sweet. But I didn't really have any flatbed experience. But back then, it's like I don't know if it was just that store or what, but it was just kind of like, yeah, go strap this down. I had no idea what I was doing. So I mean, in hindsight, it's kind of like, ooh, I don't know about that.
For sure.
But after that, I when I wanted, I kind of got tired of it's weird. Like when you're OTR, there's certain things that there's a lot of stuff you hate about OTR, but there's always like that something you miss. And then when you get a day job, which is what you wanted the whole time you're OTR, it's like because you're going to take a cut in pay most of the time, especially just starting out. When you got no experience, you got to work for pretty much. You can't be so picky, right?
Yeah.
You got to do your time, and I missed the money. I missed certain things about the OTR life, and so I jumped back into it. And this time I jumped back into it on Flatbed, and from Flatbed with that company, a reefer opportunity opened up, which was actually a dedicated Walmart run. So I pulled the Walmart trailers for a while, from the DCs to the
You had all
stores.
the good jobs.
Oh yeah, well I mean I had to play, and that's one thing about me is that in order for me to know what something's like, I have to experience it. I can read about it, I can study all I want to, and that goes a lot in the hotshot stuff too. You can be learned all you want to, but when it comes down to putting that into action, it's totally different. I mean, you feel like you don't know what you're doing because no matter how mentally prepared you were, it didn't look nothing looks like you expect it to. So it's kind of a shock. Even though if you were to close your eyes, it's kind of like, yeah, the motions are the same, but it's very different once it's hands on, and that's how I learn. But after that, did the dry van, came back, got a local tanker job picking up waste oil, kind of like a safety clean. Crankcase oil from like car dealerships and boats and stuff like that. And I was at that job for a while, and then that's where, once again, the money. I had an opportunity, and this was my first dive out into owner operator. Um, I got an opportunity to be an owner op pulling a tanker, so that's what I did. And actually, that nomadic Brit, I don't know if you've seen him floating around. I think he just started. He is an owner op at Schneider, which is where I did that. I joined on to Schneider on their owner op program and pulled a tanker for a while. And then from there, the choice program wasn't available for tankers, so I switched back to dry van and finished that out there. But the truck that I got kind of started having a lot of maintenance issues, and the warranty had just expired. So they were this truck was in a dealership over and over and over for like 3 months straight, and they kept chasing turbo issues, and it was just sensor chasing. That's all it was. Every sensor in the chain. Because when you go to a dealership, and of course, because of who I had the truck leased through, right? They made you. They called the shots on where you go, and it was always to a Peterbilt dealership. It was a Peterbilt truck, goes to the dealership. It's not mine, I'm leasing it. You know what I'm saying? So they call the shots on that. And as they're chasing all these sensors, it's like all the loads all the loads I booked, I had to give back. There was a penalty for loads you had to give back once you booked them after a certain amount of time. So I got hit there. I got hit sitting at a dealership, and then you get hit to get your keys back. They're like $2,400. Hope this works, and it don't. And 3 months in a row. I mean, people ask how much. I've been asked before how much you should have in your maintenance account. Guys, I blew through $32,000 in 3 months and still filed bankruptcy, right? I mean, it got to the point to where I realized even if everything is okay now, I won't see a paycheck for 4 months because I'm paying back pay now,
Yeah.
right? Because everything had gone upside down while I was trying to get everything fixed. And you're in desperation mode at that point. You don't really notice. And I wasn't the best at bookkeeping. That's one of the biggest lessons I learned through that, was to know your numbers, and that's why a lot of my videos, as boring as they are, they're breakdowns that are very important. If you can get through me mumbling and talking and just looking at numbers, there's a reason for that. And it was a hard lesson for me to be able to tell that reason. It's learn from my mistakes on that.
For sure, 100%.
Um,
No, I think
yeah,
so.
but
So
yeah.
you did. So I mean, obviously, you had a lot of experience in the semi truck industry, a lot of different jobs there. Where did you even see what Hotshot was, or when did you kind of, catch the Hotshot bug, we can say, or learn about it and realize this might be something I want to get into?
Right. I started looking into Hotshot in about 2017. 27 into 2017, 2018, right? And I was really looking more into the semi side of stuff, and then even more so the brokerage side of stuff. And that's where Hotshot had kind of popped out of all that search, right? I kept seeing it and I kept seeing it. I wasn't interested, but then I started clicking on some stuff. And I'll be honest with you, the first Hotshot video I ever watched was Hotshot Dave. Like this was way back when he started. I mean, I think it was still the black truck that he had. I mean, it was a long time ago. Um, and I thought, it's like that looks like it sucks, right? It's like you're in a pickup, I'm in a semi this whole time, right? And and I had seen those guys, drive through the truck stops. To me, all they were was in my way. They're taking up a full truck parking
For
spot.
sure.
That's all they ever were to me. And it's not until I really started looking into it, I started seeing more because it's almost like that one thing when you think of something, you see it more often,
Yeah.
And that's where, it started crossing my mind. And I started really paying attention to the people that were getting out of these trucks and coming into the truck stop, right? They were typically well dressed and didn't look like a lot of the semi truck drivers. And I was like, you know what? There might be something to this. I mean, it doesn't look like this is a poor person's career, right? So I started dabbling into that. And when I started really looking into Hotshot, is when I came across Josh D. And I don't think you've been looking into this long enough to know Josh
No.
Dowden. Um, he had just started his hotshot journey from the RV hauling. And he had just a few months later, as I was still researching the hotshot stuff, and I was driving a truck, a semi, um, but for a company because I was still kind of at that point reeling from the bankruptcy, right? And trying to find my legs again. So um, he put a video out saying that he was looking for a semi driver, that he had bought two semi trucks, and he was wanting somebody with experience, preferably military vet. It's like all the boxes he was naming off, I was checking off, and I'm like, I liked him. I liked his personality. He was an awesome guy, just through the videos, and you could tell, like for the most part, he was genuine. It was really strange the way I wish he wouldn't have took him down. His whole persona was just crazy, and it seemed like he gathered a lot of people all at once. And so I tried and tried and tried to get a hold of him, right? But you can't message people on YouTube and all this, and none of his info was really public. So I just asked if there was any way I could get a hold of him. He got me his email. A phone call a couple of days later, I got the job over the phone, not because of any paperwork, but just because of the questions he was asking me. And I knew all the stuff that he needed to know, that he was looking, as far as what he was looking for was, someone like me that knew what I was talking about, but had somewhat of a good personality. It was military vet. Like I said, we clicked very well. And I took off with him and on the semi game. It didn't take me long before I was kind of managing his small fleet, right? But part of that fleet was owner op hot shots. And that's really where I started to really see the number side of everything for real, because I wasn't processing payroll, but I was submitting everything, right? So I started seeing all the semi numbers and I started seeing the hotshot numbers rolled in, and they were so similar. It's like, you got to be kidding me right now that all the money we pay on these semi trucks a week and month, these guys are matching and spending, 50% less at least. But the gross is there, sometimes more. And that's really where, you start to pay attention. But it wasn't something that I was pursuing hardcore. I was after that first point where, like I said, I was even ignoring it. It was just kind of always in the peripheral right there. And it's like, it was almost like a nuisance, where it's like, okay, let me dive into this now. And then I finally saw it, and there was something to it. It wasn't a desperation move or a demotion to me. It was, I think it was a smart play. And so far it's panned out very well.
No, for sure. I think one thing we got to realize, guys, is when I was talking with Danny, hauling cash in the last one, and I've kind of been thinking about it a lot. It's just being able to transition and logistical side of things,
Hmm.
right? Like We might run Hotshot right now, but that doesn't mean we're not going to run something else tomorrow. Like you were a semi truck
Right.
driver, it didn't mean that you're not going to do Hotshot right now. Like you're going to pick what works best for you where you're at, right? Because one thing me and
Yeah.
Load Miser were talking about kind of off camera was you need to find out what works best for you. Where are you? Where do you live? What, you know, what's I'm looking for? Like, what state are you in? What's around you? And then once you
Hmm.
realize that, you can really realize what's going to work best for you, And I think that's something that's super
Yeah.
important. But real quick, guys, how is the audio? Broke Hotshot says he can't hear me. I want to make sure everything's good to go. I did turn my audio down. Is this better, guys? Sorry, I turned it down because I don't want any echoes, but as long as you guys can hear me here, we'll just keep it normal, I guess. There's strong hot shot coming in. Always love a good old strong hot shot. He's here with us. Cool. I raised it back up, guys. But like I was saying, you know, find out what works for you guys. Like to an extent, we can all help you out,
Yeah.
and say what works for us. And I want to get in with Lowe's
Yeah.
Miser a little bit. He's had the opportunity to be leased on to some companies that will not be named, and he's also had the opportunity to do his own thing. And he's done freight and he's done cars, but really he had to find what worked for him where he was at, right? I live in
Yeah.
Southern Utah, for example, guys, and a lot of times the freight is not that good. You know, a lot of times I'm having to go to California trying to get something, but a lot of times we're stuck in Las Vegas. It's not like I live in, the Midwest and able to get that freight. So we have to do different things here to be able to make the same amount of money that somebody else makes somewhere else, right? And it's all about keeping the foot on the transitional pedal. But Low Miser, I want to talk a little bit right now about your transition to doing more of cars. What have you seen?
Mm.
What's the big difference between hauling freight and hauling cars? I know you made a video about it, but just real quick, sum it up. What's the
Mhm.
biggest difference you think?
The biggest difference for me personally, and that's something I really want to stress here, is that it's very easy for me to get out of the house under a load. It's very easy for me to come home, not so much under a load, but I can get loaded up with. But if I leave at 7 in the morning, I can be fully loaded 3 cars by 10 o'clock. That's not going to happen with me with freight,
Mm,
right? I'm going to have to go to Nashville, which is 2.5 hours away, maybe St. Louis sometimes, which is 3.5 hours away. Or Arkansas. Um, there was no freight coming or going on a regular basis anywhere around me that wouldn't kill half a day, right? Sometimes I'd have to leave on Sunday just to start my Monday, right? And I hated that. And same thing coming home. You're eating it coming home with
for
Deadhead,
sure.
big time. It's not so much in a truck, but you know, the hotshot freight, flatbed freight, it was the same thing I was running into when I had the semi right before I did hotshot. As far as availability where I live, and a guy reached out to me. I'm not going to say who it was. I don't think he's not on YouTube. He's a subscriber, but he's not like a YouTube personality, right? Um, he reached out to me in an email, and I know I've got some pending emails. If anybody's watching this that has emailed me, I'm spinning through that and the Instagram messages, guys. I get a lot of email. I get a lot of spam, and I get a lot of quiz. I have to sort. I break stuff down into what's I'm not going to say worth responding to, but you got to understand, guys, I get hit with some crazy stuff. Okay. So if I haven't gotten back to you and you had a legitimate question, just hang tight. I'll get you. So he had gotten a hold of me and had just asked, and was super polite about it too. Was saying, I don't want to try to tell you or come off as how that I'm trying to tell you how to run your business, but have you considered cars? And the honest answer to that was no, because I had no experience with cars. I've done a lot. I've hauled a lot of things, but cars was never one of them. I tried to get into it, but they wanted experience, and it's like,
Mhm.
how do you get an experience if you don't?
If
It's
you don't
almost like
start,
credit.
yeah,
Yeah, right. Um, so it's like, no, I really haven't. And this guy was super cool. He let me access his central dispatch for an inevitable amount of time. I mean, I couldn't book anything through it, but I could search every day, and I started to. And I really liked what I saw. I was like, I actually couldn't believe what I saw. And this was last summer, so it's a little more busy than it is now. But it really got the wheels turning, right? So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna get a subscription to Central, and I'm gonna start hauling. I can haul trucks and SUVs on my flatbed, right? I can
Yeah.
only haul two, but and it just wasn't enough. The capacity wasn't there. I was super limited, as far as capacity and then commodity too. I could only haul high profile things, and cars were pretty much out of the question because even though I have a low profile deck, when I only had the 8 foot steel ramps, and I mean, it's such a sharp angle.
No, for sure.
You
Yeah.
can't load a car. You bottom out. So, like I said, I'm pretty hands on. I saw the numbers had made sense to me for long enough, and they was super consistent to where I was like, you know what, I'm just going to pull the trigger on this and do it. And if it fails, trailers right now are very easy to get rid of. So I can go buy a trailer, and if it all goes downhill, I'll just get rid of it and go back to square one, I guess, because I was having a hard time booking freight. And it's funny, you said you haven't really ran into many of those issues, but I was getting turned away 2 out of 5 phone calls, because of the 90-day mark or some 180. And, it's for the most part, that really wasn't a big issue with cars. What's funny about cars is that it's kind of the first time I ever heard that besides the Department of Defense contracts or
Yeah.
even, availability to sign up. But a couple of these car companies are like, no, your MC has to be 2 years old. I'm like, what?
Do you even have people that
You're
can
on
move your
Central
cars for
Dispatch.
you?
It's crazy, right? I mean, yeah, the rates are really good, but it's like,
Crazy, crazy. Yeah.
wow, what a requirement, man. It's like, why do you guys even answer the phone? I mean, your day must suck if you have to turn away almost
Everybody that
everybody on
calls.
Central.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
No, so I mean, we were looking into cars too because basically, being where we're at, there are a lot of cars everywhere, and I'm an
Hmm.
hour and a half from Las Vegas, so you have the car auctions
Right.
down there. Cars are always wanting to be
Yep.
moved, but I've always been on the edge just because of the insurance side of things. Obviously, I don't think it's going to raise it too much, but I mean,
Yeah.
you have to load the cars, and there's a risk factor
Yeah.
that goes there, and if you're
Yeah.
if you're if you're hauling new cars, because I sold cars for a while, and I know how we receive vehicles. We walk around and we make sure they're in good. We mark off a list, the condition they come in,
Yeah.
and if the condition isn't what it should be, I feel like it's the problem of the carrier, and I mean, are
Right.
cars really that big of a threat when it comes to having smaller insurance claims, or is it kind of just what everybody thinks?
Well, that's the point to where you need an inspection form and you need to take a lot of pictures and you want to try to write down everything. I mean, rock pecks and stuff, you can blanket that, but the more detailed you are, but see, this stuff takes time and it's not always optimal too, because sometimes it could be raining and not even raining, that annoying mist rain that
Yeah,
just
yeah.
beads up all over a vehicle. You know how hard it is to see anything. You can't see dents, you can't see scratches. Sometimes it's at night, you can get them snow covered. So you got to be super careful with that. But that is one thing with cars that it's a major downturn, opposed to the freight world, to where, um, for what the cars pay, which are cheaply or not cheaply, typically cheaper than like kind of what a freight load would pay, but the speed and the quickness that you can, and just the availability that you can stack
Hmm.
cars along one straight route, instead of just, maybe a couple of partial, or a full truckload hotshot route. Um, it just, I mean, you can just you cannot stay busy enough. Like, I mean, it is nuts how busy you are with cars, because it's the partial game gone crazy, right? It's really, it's wild. Like, you'd have to do it. Like, I mean, you have no time anymore, which has been hard for me to make
For
videos,
sure.
um, because you just stay so busy. But the biggest thing about it on the insurance side, and as far as just the the liability of it overall, is with freight, there's less liability because, I mean, you're hauling like, steel structures or you know what you haul in freight. With cars though, I mean, a good rate on a car is $1 a mile. You could stack 3 of them up, you're making $3 a mile, right? That sounds good. But if you're only going a couple hundred miles, just $600 on a car. You drop it off, or on your way, a bird hits the passenger mirror on like a new BMW X6. Your $600 just went with that bird,
Yeah, for
right?
sure.
Like, you're not even making money on that car. Plus, there's a claim now, especially it was like it was brand new. It's like just little things like that that could just shatter everything. I mean, think about the windows and stuff. You get a rock thrown up in the windshield. I mean, how many pings do you have in your windshield right now?
Yeah,
Just imagine if that was a few, the liability on them is very high, or the risk, I guess I should say. So sometimes, I mean, if you really think about that, it outweighs the the risk and the reward. It's a much bigger factor than with freight,
for
right?
sure.
Because I mean, you can kind of ding up freight, nobody's gonna care, especially when the forklift comes and just stabs it anyway. You're like, okay, cool, this guy don't care at all. Um, but with cars, you got people watching you half the time, and they want you to mess up. Some people
Hmm.
do, like a lot of the used car dealerships too. I mean, you could just tell they want you to just rub it against something or like scratch it with your jacket or something. You know what I mean? While
Yeah,
you're
for
walking
sure.
down the side. But the more it it forces you to be uh, much more careful.
Hmm.
It forces you to really pay attention and to mentally slow down a little bit. As far and physically as well too. Like especially with the wedge. I mean, it's super top heavy. So I drive through the gorge a lot because I've been going to North Carolina a ton, and I mean it's as fast as I want to go through there, like I used to with freight. I mean, you got to slow down because I used to, you only want to lean so much, right? And you become super in depth with how much you actually want to feel that truck lean.
Yeah,
Um, and I learned that I used to haul piggyback RV chassis on a flatbed semi. And you don't want to feel a chain pop on one of those taking turns like that down a mountain. It's the last thing you want to feel. But the same thing with cars, that you're top heavy, because with the wedge, the bottom of the bottom of the or the top of the trailer is already at the roof of my truck, and
hmm,
you put anything on top of that, a car, a truck, anything else, your center of gravity is nuts. So it forces you to pay a lot more attention to things. It forces you to watch out for tree limbs a lot more than you would with just a high cube or something like that on freight. Um, because the liability is crazy high, and the insurance is too, and you don't want either one of those to go through the
for
roof.
sure. I
So,
like
but
when I haul freight, I like it just to be like steel beam, and I'm like, okay, you want us to strap her or you want some chains? You tell me, bud.
mhm, yeah, you're just throwing raw chains
I'm
across
like, pop,
product. It's
pop.
like, oh,
Tell me
it's all
how it is,
rusted
bro.
anyway. You're just gonna take it off and lay it on the
Yeah,
ground. Yeah,
for sure. I was like,
yeah, it's
how
it's
how long
pretty
has this
it's
been
pretty
sitting
wild
outside? And you
how
want us to tarp it? Like, what's up? But
I hate that, dude. Or having to tarp like galvanized
yeah,
stuff, it's like, are you serious
they
right
let them
now?
do.
Because they pick it up from outside and they lay it down outside. They're like, no, you need to tarp
Be
that though.
rusty all day. No, yeah. What's
Right.
so for you, obviously you've been hauling cars for a little bit now. What's a good rate per mile?
Yeah.
What are you kind of looking for? Like kind of rate per mile for how many miles?
On the boards, I don't search. When I put my search in, 65 cents my bottom. I don't even want to see what's under that, right? Why? Because worst case scenario, I can haul three cars at 65 cents a mile, still over $2 mark. And that's kind of my baseline, and that stems back to the freight world, where $2 a mile is typically pretty good. That's where you want to try to get. That's where you want to start, right? With all your parcels added up, that's kind of like where you want to be. You don't have to worry about numbers so much whenever $2 a mile is in
Hmm.
the equation or up, because you're making money at that point. Um, Especially if you lined everything up right. I mean, you can't just bounce all around the country and ooh, this adds up to $2 a mile right now.
Yeah.
Just off the board. You got to factor it all in. But at 65 cents a mile, I can still make that work for me. um, but a lot of the cars, and mileage plays a huge factor in this too. There's a certain cutoff to where the distance that vehicle's going and the price it is all starts to fall away, and that's going to be more so for your like 4, 5, 7, 9 car haulers, to where they can haul these vehicles at like 40 cents a
Hmm.
mile because they're multiplying them by 8 or 9, you know what I mean? So I mean, they're still banking money going across country with cheap cars, but I can't do that. I need to be dividing by three. So 65 cents a mile is kind of my baseline. I don't like to see anything listed under 70. Like when I just need to plug something in, just to plug something in because there's nothing else, then I'll start to dive into the high 60s, right? But I search at 65 to see what's out there. But really 70, and then of course, upwards, there's been a couple of vehicles I've hauled that were that limo, that limo was $1.90. And then I actually stacked freight on that too, right? Yeah. So I mean, considering the fact it took up two spots,
Yeah.
yeah. But that's an average of 80 or what, 85 cents a mile,
Uh-huh.
for those two spots. So it's just kind of like, quick math. It's like, is this worth it? Hell yeah, it's worth it. You know what I
For sure.
mean? It's making me money, right? And one limo is lighter than two cars anyway. So I mean, the fuel mileage out there was great, even though I had that dually on the back. That thing was a beast. Um, but all in all, okay, so to answer your question finally, I guess I would say I'd say 70 cents to a buck. I think if you can play within that area all day, right, you're gonna make money.
Yeah. Do you have a
Now,
well, real quick, do you have an average that you look for
yeah,
per day? If you're out there working hard, are you looking, do you kind of average it out per day, or
yeah,
do you more like for the week, or how do you do
I
that?
still I started wanting to do cars like I was doing freight, which was 1,000 a day, but I kind of look now more like 800. I'm happy with 800 because I know what 800 looks like, right? And I'm going through a 5-day work week. I like to come home every weekend now, and I can do that with cars, and I don't have to worry about what Monday's going to look like. Um, I don't have to make sure I come in under a load. Now I could come in with a load full of cars and deliver them all out Monday, but I don't have to right now, so I'm not. It's nice to have that option to where with freight, if I found a load going through the house, I'd almost have to take that because that don't happen much. You know what I
Exactly. Yep.
mean? So you want to yeah, you kind of want to capitalize on that moment there. But with cars, it's so easy because of where I'm at. And I'm going to stress that too, because of where I'm at and what I need and what I'm okay with making. It's like I'm not out here killing it. I could go back out and kill it, but I don't have to and I don't want to, and it's like, so what in between that makes me need to, it's like YouTube views or something like that.
Hmm.
That's why I quit doing the money videos, because I wasn't even showing what's possible. I wasn't trying to brag or do anything like that. But as you just get picked apart with the money stuff, it's like, look, this works for me. This is what I'm doing. I'm showing you what I can do and what I do what I do that it works. Obviously, I'm still doing this, right?
For sure.
So you can model that, you can exceed that, you know, you can even be doing worse than that and do okay. I think I'm kind of right in the middle here, and it's really between preference and capability, and I'm fine with that.
For sure.
Flat out, I'm fine with that. I'm happy with that, and my family's happy with that.
Yeah, I think one thing it kind of goes back to, we're all doing Hotshot, whether we're doing non-CDLs, CDL, or moving cars, but it depends on what works for you, whatever makes your business successful.
Yeah,
If you're successful on hauling cars during the week and coming home over the weekend, and that's how you can make it
yeah,
by, that's great. If you live in a
yeah,
different part of the United States and you're not successful like that, well, you got to realize that and you got to get it done the way that you need to get it done. And I think
right, yeah,
a lot of stuff I've seen is like, when we first started, we hired a driver, one of our good friends, and he's a part of the business now, but he lived in Las Vegas,
yeah,
Nevada, right? And we were hauling freight. And
yeah,
every Friday, I would have to try and get him to Las Vegas, Nevada, because he wanted to go home over the weekend. So like I'm looking at
you're
loads to
right,
kind of to see if it will connect there. Maybe if we move it down a little bit, add a couple miles, we'll get
yeah,
there. So I'm skipping, the
right,
better loads to try and get the
hmm,
load to take them home. And guys, you need to
right,
realize that weekend load it's a big load for you. That Friday to Monday load, if you're
yeah,
doing freight OTR, that's a big load, guys. And it can be,
yeah. That front loads the whole next
yeah,
week.
it could be $500, and really short because you want to go home, or it can be 25, $3,000, because you're willing to drive over the weekend. And it really just depends, guys. But that's something I've definitely seen.
Yep.
Okay, so moving on a little bit, I know that you are doing the enterprise You have an enterprise truck,
Mhm.
correct? I want to talk a little bit about
Yes.
that, but beforehand, so you with Load Miser, I mean, being your business, I know you are Load Miser. Are you just one truck right now? You're
Yeah.
just one truck.
Yeah. It's one
Okay.
truck. I have two trailers. I still have the flatbed. Um, I'm thinking about maybe getting rid of that. I'm not gonna. I'll go. I'll kind of like preview that right now. I'm very seriously considering it. So I haven't made up my mind. Um, but I think I might shortly.
Listen up, guys. It'll be up on the market. Look for it. Now, I saw a little something
Yeah.
something on Instagram a little bit ago. Might have been a little bit of an invoice or something for a new truck. So before we get into that, let's talk a little bit about the
Yeah.
enterprise program. Let's talk first off what you liked about it. I know a lot of people talk about this program. A lot of people want to use it to get into the business, but
Yeah.
it has had some problems, especially with what's going on right
Hmm.
now. The program even having trucks. So what have you seen? I mean, obviously
Right.
you started with it beforehand. So what were some things
Hmm.
you liked about it when you started up now, and what are some things you're seeing now that maybe is causing you could go a different route?
That's a good question. I think that the program definitely has its place in the business. I think that ideally, under normal circumstances, that enterprise can be used for two things. It could be used as a launch pad, like I'm using it, and it could be used as a kind of a savior at some point when things are going fine. There's a lot of guys last year, unfortunately, who's I think AZ was one of them, if he's still in here, whose truck broke down. I mean, for months because parts were back ordered, right? Enterprise would have been perfect for that because you go get a truck, you continue business, and you're not sitting on your butt for 5 months. Or you've got a truck inside of a maintenance bay at a dealership that's ripped apart and doesn't run and can't make you money that you're paying for. What are you going to do if you can't rent a truck? Then you're going to have to buy another one. Really? It sucks. It's a bad situation. So it's very good for that. But let's go back to the launch pad aspect of that, like what I used it for. Um, like I said, I'm very hands on, and what I liked the most about Enterprise was, let me see if I can make this work like I think I can, right? Because like I said, you can have a plan together, but once it's in front of you and you're actually doing it, that's a totally different game. And it went according to plan. And I started putting things away and growing, and I was running the miles out of that truck too. I was killing this truck, right? And which is another good thing about having a rental. You don't have to really worry
Just go for
about
it,
how
bud.
hard you are
You're
on
just
it.
running, bud.
But the biggest thing about the launchpad part of it is, if this, especially with people that have never driven, right? Okay, this really pertains to them. This gives you the option to get into this, see if you like it, see if it's going to swing your way, see if you're going to be able to, uh, operate the way that you need to, to be happy and be profitable too. You want to balance that because one without the other just straight sucks. I've been there more than once. And but it's good because if it doesn't work out for these guys for whatever reason, you can walk away from that truck. You're not facing bankruptcy because it's an asset that you can't get rid of or that you're upside down on and your business flopped and now you're in just a mess. You can literally just take it back, walk away from it, and you're fine. It gives you that you're going to pay for it because it's a higher rate than if you were to just finance one. And in other instances, some people can't finance a truck, so it's not the best option if you're hurting for money because it's going to cost more, but it's much easier to get into, and it still offers you that safety net of being able to just walk away from it. I think that those are the two big benefits of something like an enterprise program. Do I think it's smart to build a fleet out of that? No, I don't. And that takes me to kind of like the cons of it. When you're running the miles, you've got your rate per mile, but you've also kind of got a base rate. And when I was piling on like 3,000, 3,400 miles a month, or yeah, a week, and I actually had them, instead of getting billed per month, I have them bill me once a week, right? So when you're slamming the miles in like that, and they give you like they call you up and they're like, hey, you're gonna owe 800 and something dollars this week. It's like you kind of do the quick math on that and you're like, that's about right. So you pay your bill, right? So, but with the cars, I mean, I've gone from like the 3,000 something mile weeks down to like 1,800, 19, you know what I mean? And the payments are still rolling in though, that are kind of like, it's like, really, that seriously, it's that much for not, I only drove like 3 or 4 days this week. That's where you kind of really start seeing the difference. And what's crazy is that I think that the enterprise program is better for those heavy miles. Yeah, you're going to pay more, but I mean, think about how hard you are on that truck. You're going to rack miles up fast. But to whereas buying a truck, I think for the lower mileage situations like that, I think that would be the better deal to go, because you're really not utilizing what the enterprise, rental could potentially do. And that's kind of like your long-term issues that you're going to run into if you do buy a truck are going to happen regardless, right? But with the enterprise thing, if you're just slamming the miles in, your warranties are going to go away much faster. You know what I'm saying? And you don't have to worry about all that with the enterprise truck program. So there, there's pros and cons. I think as far as like, because of course I've had this truck since before I started Load Mizer, the truck company. So I knew that I probably come into this with an enterprise rental, but it was never the intention to stay in that, because the business having assets that's good, for multiple reasons. But now mainly the fact that I've brought the mileage way down and I'm starting to kind of see the difference it would potentially be rental fee versus, payment if I finance. It's crazy. Like, I mean, it's like 600 to 700 more dollars a month,
Yeah.
For the enterprise truck. And when you start multiplying some months together, it don't take you too long to realize that,
I just bought a truck.
two and a half, 3 years. I mean, you could buy 2 trucks for what you've rented one for, and you still don't have one. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
It's not yours.
It's hard. I
So
think
the money, the money don't make sense at that point. But I'm not going to slam enterprise either. It's like I said, I think is springboarding into this, and I know they're awesome for the RV guys up there. Um, I think that's two really good uses for enterprise. Jumping into this to see if you want to do this or not, instead of cracking your nut in a dealership and not having any idea what you're getting into, or using it as a backup program for a vehicle that's down.
no, for sure. I think one thing that we really have to be aware of, and I think I'm having a little bit of no, okay, echo went away. We're good. Um, it's like I see a
Okay.
lot of people, they're posting on the Facebook groups or they're posting on people's videos like, well, should I do the enterprise truck? I can't really buy a truck right now, and then I call enterprise and they're
Yeah.
backed up 6 months or backed up a year, or some people are saying, oh, they canceled their whole program, like you just start hearing all this
Yeah.
stuff, and I know in our situation, we bought a truck for, well, it was like 45,000. Obviously we put some money down, and I mean, our payment's
Yeah.
$700 a month, and I hear the
Yep.
price people are paying on these
Yep.
these other trucks, and you add that with the insurance being more expensive. And like we were talking
Yep.
off air, you said insurance for the enterprise, because I mean, obviously they'll give you their full coverage, right? It's going up,
Right.
their fees are going up, it's
Hmm.
getting a lot more popular. But popularity a lot of
Right.
times isn't a good thing, because more people are messing
Yeah.
it up for everybody, more people are wrecking the
Yeah.
trucks, more people are bringing them back
Yeah.
trash, and enterprise is saying, we got to raise these rates because we don't know who we're giving these trucks
Yeah.
to. And I mean,
Right.
I
Yeah.
like to stay away from the whole thing. I think, I'd much rather just buy a truck, and if I have to
Mhm.
get out of Hotshot anytime soon, I have me a diesel dually to drive around. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Right.
We'll call it a day. But yeah, guys, I would definitely say do your research. I don't know, Low Miser, you've probably made a video about it on your channel, about enterprise.
What's that? Now I have it because what I was going to was right when they started having a hard time finding trucks,
Mm-hmm.
right? And that's kind of where when they first started this, they were pushing people. They were like, we're not gonna take anybody for the next month, so don't do anything yet. And I was like, okay, I wasn't just gonna make a video. I wanted permission from everybody because I wanted to showcase a few different sides of the program that I really didn't want to talk about because it's part of my contract without, approval through who it needs to be talked about.
Yeah,
I didn't want video to be taken down or me to get smashed out of the
or
program.
smack you up, you know.
Kids are going to sleep now.
No worries. Awesome. Well, yeah, guys, I hope you can learn from that just a little bit. Low Miser still has the Enterprise rent truck. I mean, it looks like he might be
Yeah.
going a different way though. Who knows? We'll see. We'll see later on.
All right.
We'll see what happens. Wait for the video, guys. But so
Yeah.
Low Miser, one question I like to ask everybody I have on this podcast. I would love to hear about your worst experience with a broker. One that just sticks out to you and you're like, oh my gosh.
Yeah. My worst experience with a broker, I think I squeezed it into a video somewhere. Yeah, I think it was one of those comparison videos. I was still in semi, and I had booked a load. It was solar panel support mounts going to a field in New York, and it was just northwest of Binghamton, and it wasn't winter or anything like that, but it was raining a ton, and so when I get there, I see the entrance road to this, and I was supposed to call the guy the night when I got there, but I actually stayed outside of Binghamton. And whenever I got there, I was out of hours, and I had no phone service. It was just a total dead zone, and I'm shut down, right? I mean, I had already been. My Tim was up like 30 minutes ago, right? So I
Yeah.
was like, I literally, or not my Tim, but I'd started my Tim, and so I couldn't get a hold of this guy. So I finally get to take off the next morning and I'm about to make my actual appointment time, but it says to call ahead. Well, this dude's mad, right? That I didn't call ahead and I was supposed to be there at 8, which I was gonna be there at 8, but he was mad that I didn't call ahead. So he told me don't pull into the main lot, go down. There's a Dollar General, I think there was. Park in the gravel lot across from it. I'm like, okay, whatever. So I go down there, park in the gravel. Well, I pull in, and dude, there's like, there's probably 16 trucks
Oh
backed
no.
into that gravel lot, and they've all got the solar panel
Oh
pieces right. I'm
gosh.
like, you are not kidding me right now, man. Um, so I pull into that, and it's just a nightmare, dude. Just it's literally taken like an hour and a half for each one of these trucks to get unloaded, and nobody's coming back, right? Because they leave the opposite
Yeah.
way. So nobody really saw what was going on, but my turn finally came up, and I'm like, I'm all in the broker on detention for this already, because it was my fault I didn't call, but it's like this was crazy because they literally wasted my whole day. Plus, knowing what I run into, they were going by the position we were parked in. It didn't matter what your appointment
Yeah, for
was,
sure.
right? They were going closest to the road to the back. Um, and I got there when I was supposed to be there. And there was already like 15, 16 trucks in front of me. So I finally get pulled. It's literally almost dark. And I get to the bottom of the hill and they asked if I had my tow hooks in, like at that point. And I'm like, no, why would I? Right. So um, this dude's coming down the hill with a bulldozer. And I'm like, no way. Because it's just this nasty, sloppy, muddy hill. But there's no road up there. It's just this peak of a hill on this guy's farm that he's installing this massive solar panel field. And they're dragging me up this hill on this bulldozer, man. And like it's the roughest crap ever. I get up to the hill, and this is when I was with Josh, and he had that Conestoga,
Yeah.
right? I don't know. You know what a Conestoga
I
is?
know what it is. Come on.
Yeah. Oh, dude. We got to the top of the hill. And like, even though we're at the top of the hill, right? The truck's still sitting like this. And they're like, okay, open everything and unstrap. And I go to the back. Number one, I didn't like the way the truck was positioned. Number two, I'm like up to my kneecaps in mud, man. It's nasty. You like can't even walk. And I get to the back of the Conestoga, and these panel sections are literally, you can see them poking the end of the Conestoga
Yeah,
out,
yeah.
right? They're up against the back. I'm like, oh man, Josh is gonna kill me, right? And but I did the security strap on the front and the rear because it's just what I did, even though it was covered by a Conestoga. but it didn't matter at that point. I've got pictures of this on some. I don't even think it's this phone, but when I was able to finally get that Conestoga rolled up, man, every single one of those things were like kicked at like a like a 45-degree
Oh
angle.
my gosh.
And they said, "All right, unstrap it." So I unstrapped it. Nothing happened. Everything was right there, right? And what did they bring out of the telehandler that they had brought up there? And then they had another like actual, pretty decent loader with some forks on it. They bring a bobcat with forks on it to unload a truck sitting like this, right? It's like stuff's trying. Man, the second that guy like breathed on those rods, man, they all fell off the back of the trailer, dude. It broke Josh's tail light, and it was a nightmare. And I was freaking out because I'm like, after that day I'd had, 'cause remember I was sitting out the bottom of the hill and just steaming, man. I was like, I was already upset that this has already burned a day. I've had to cancel a load I'd booked before, and now this all happens, and it's like they're trying to blame me for that. It's like, are you got to be kidding me right now? It's like, how? I'm lucky that isn't all up that hill from you guys dragging me up from a bulldozer. You should be glad that I had that strap on there, but you could see. I don't, out of everything that I had laid down, the material that I was hauling was like the only thing in that whole pile of that was what was left in the field they unloaded that day that would actually fall off that way. It was all the loose pipe stakes. It
Yeah,
was like
yeah.
square tubing, and on each bundle, there was probably 800 of those things sitting there, and like probably anywhere I've got, like I said, I'd find the pictures, man. There's probably 4 or 5 bundles that actually fell off the trailer. So they're all picking that crap up out there one at a time. It was terrible. And that the biggest thing about it is that the broker basically said that this was, I mean, when we booked the load, of course, it was going to be just a quick strap and go. They're waiting. They're already ready for this. They wanted this last week kind of crap. You're going into this thinking this is going to be a quick
You
deal.
roll up, they take it
And the
off, they
crazy
get
thing about
moving.
it was, yeah, because the whole load wasn't even theirs. It was just the back half. I was only picking up that back part. I mean, the stuff up front, I didn't have to worry about moving at all, but all just throughout the day, man. And knowing what that stuff was, I just wanted to get out there and just kind of, you know,
Yeah.
wedge it off the side of the trailer,
Like,
just let
bye.
it hit the ground. You're like, yeah, we're delivered.
We're out.
But
Well,
that was the worst, man. Having to be yanked up a hill through a bulldozer and just.
I can't
I
even
think the
imagine.
biggest thing I was worried about was messing up Josh's Conestoga because he had just got that, man, and he
Yeah.
had like trusted me with it, right? And I'm like, you gotta
I'm
be
like,
kidding me
Josh,
right now.
Josh, Josh, listen, bro. You
Yeah, it's
don't
like you
even
guys are
know
gonna
what just went
shred
down,
this
son.
Conestoga over this stupid square tubing.
How
I don't understand.
I don't
It's crazy, man.
how would they even like expect? I don't even know what they expected. They're like, some rich guy just wants to throw all that
What?
stuff. They're like, yeah, we're just gonna drag all these semi trucks up this muddy hill and
Dude, not only
everything be
that
chill.
though, it's not like they drag you back down the hill. Now you're half empty and you're literally like driving down this slick, muddy hill you couldn't even drive up, and they're
Uh,
like, "Bye." They don't.
they
It's
don't care.
like,
They're like, you got
man,
our load here, boy.
how am
We're
I going to
gone.
get down here? It's like I couldn't even almost get up this thing, but
No.
it was nuts, man. That's intense stuff when you're having to drive through stuff like that. And like I say, I still had another load on the front of that trailer,
Yeah, for sure.
but
No, that definitely
but yeah, that sucked.
that definitely takes the cake, my guy. Probably the worst experience I've ever heard, and I hope none of us run into that with our
Yeah.
fleets. Okay, guys,
Don't
so
do,
watch
don't
out.
deliver solar stuff to New York
Don't
State.
deliver solar stuff to New York State. If
Yeah,
I ever get something like that, they're like, "This is solar stuff to New York State." I'm like, "Not today, bud. I'm done."
yeah,
Awesome. Well,
yeah,
real quick, I kind of want to go over a couple different things. I've been talking about expectations lately, and we talked about it a little bit. So I kind of want to just go
yeah.
over dispatching service, and factoring, and then yeah, those two will go over real quick. So, have you ever used a dispatching service before? Have you always dispatched yourself? Have you hired out for dispatching before?
Yes, I did. I hired out for about 2 months with a dispatch service, and it just, I mean, it was kind of a wash, and I don't think I did it right whenever I started the the company because I kind of wanted to free myself up some
Hmm.
time, but from what I was seeing and from what was happening, it was kind of a wash. And then, the whole 90-day thing was playing a it was weighing on me heavy because I mean, we're both looking at things at the same time, and it just kind of became a point of to where it's like, I'm just gonna find something else to do, basically.
Yeah,
It's like we can't both always be looking on the board at the same time at the same thing. There's no point in me having a dispatch service if that's how that's going to work,
for
right?
sure.
So I dabbled in that, learned a little bit from that, but then after that started pushing and pushing, and then that's where the whole car thing tried to come in. But before that, um, I had always dispatched everything myself, and that was like all from the semi world and then down into Hotshot with the first company I was leased onto. I was dispatching myself with Tow Piglet, and then, like I said, was kind of like I thought I was kind of get the upper hand on everything, but it didn't happen. It's like, well, damn. But it's really, I know you, like I said, I know you said that you didn't see much with it, but it's like the brokers did not want to deal with me under 90 days. It was just, I don't know if I was cursed or if
Yeah,
it's the region I'm in or what, but it was rough, man. It really was.
yeah. I think.
That's why I wanted to try to get some help to hope to kind of overcome that hurdle,
Uh,
but it just didn't happen.
no, I know. I understand that for sure. Like when I was saying, my first 90 days. I mean, definitely my first 30 days. I definitely got denied a good amount, but after that, man, I
Yeah.
don't know what happened. I think it might be where my trucks run more than anything because if you're running more in the
Yeah.
Midwest, they have a lot more options. Like so the companies know they have a lot more options. I think there's a lot more truckers out there,
Hmm.
and so they have a lot more rules. But especially where I'm at, and
Yeah.
I might be wrong, but the minute the guy said, "I'll send you a carrier packet," I knew I was in like flip. Like if I heard those words,
Yeah.
the guy said, "What's your MC number?" I
Yeah.
tell him my MC number. He's like, "Send me I'll send you a carrier packet." I'm like, "We Gucci," you
Yeah.
know what I'm saying? Like, I
Yeah.
knew
Yeah.
by
Oh, you have insurance?
yeah,
No way.
I knew by that
That's
point that
perfect.
because like some of people like you guys will see this if you get into Hotshot. Some people have like an automated carrier packet to an extent. Like you go on this website, you fill
Yeah.
it out, and like some people have
Yeah.
like a third party service. I've seen this a lot. People have this third party service, and a lot of companies use it. So once you sign up once, you just kind of have to do
Yeah.
the company's contract, and you're good to go. And
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
sometimes when you put your MC number in, it'll like kick you out. It'll say you don't have enough authority, or whatever. But I knew,
Yeah, it'll flag one, dude.
yeah,
Always call back and
yeah,
just let them know
that's what I'm
that.
saying.
So a
So
lot of
I
times they'll
called
be
back.
like, "Oh, I'll fix it
Yeah,
for
I'm
you."
like, hey, dude,
Yeah,
I know we just went through this whole thing, and I said I'd take it, but your thing like kind of wrecked me. I already had my guy on the way, like what's up? And he's like, oh, dude,
right.
no
Yeah,
worries, man. Let me call the
yeah,
corporate real quick. We'll get your flag through. Don't even worry about her. But I'm like, thanks, dog. Ain't no
yeah.
thing.
Like he's almost there. He missed his kid's birthday. I mean, like, come on, dude.
Yeah, my driver just threw out his chicken strips. He's on the road. He don't mess around. He only filled half
We
tank to
gotta
get
go.
there, bro. Like, what's up? But no, I didn't. It might be where I'm from. I'm not 100% sure, but I do remember that we
Yeah.
picked. So we drove 1,500 miles to buy our trailer. Right, we drove to Alabama from southern Utah, which is like 1,500 miles.
Man,
We had our ELD and everything, but we didn't really drive commercially. We kind of just eat it that way. You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
Um,
not for hire.
yeah, not for hire. But I made
Yeah.
sure that we were ready to go once we got to Alabama. So we bought the trailer. The last thing we needed was to get our annual inspections. So we got annual
Mhm.
inspections at like a diesel shop, maybe 20 minutes from when we bought the
You
trailer.
get it anywhere,
Yeah.
anywhere.
And a lot of
Yeah,
guys don't know that.
so many
A lot of
places.
guys don't know that. That was one of the questions I had. Where can I get my annual DOT inspection? Because nobody really talks about it. Guys, you can go to really any diesel shop
Yeah.
anywhere will do it. And a lot of other places
Mhm.
will too. If
Like, yeah, especially for the trailer repair
yeah,
shop. It's just the everywhere.
everywhere, guys.
So many places. Your truck stops too, like TAs and Petros, they'll do it. I don't know how much they charge or how long you'd have to wait in line for that crap, but
Yeah, I wouldn't do it at
they'll
a
do
truck
it.
stop though. That'd be crazy. $500. I'm
Yeah.
like, what the fuck, bro? You
You're
crazy?
right.
Smoking something in his petrol right now. But
Yeah.
one thing I saw was when I was over there. We were over probably Tennessee area, Alabama, trying to work it back. But
Yeah.
I did get denied like 3 or 4 times, and that might have been me just being brand new. Because I mean, I just started calling brokers. I had no idea what I was doing. I was like, hey,
Yeah.
my name's Jason. We're looking at this load to this load. Can I have it? And they're like, no, get the flip out of here. And I'm like, crap. Okay, I'll call the next
Could
time.
have it.
So, so
Oh man. You start to feel like it sucks so bad at first, but there's like, especially like if you call, like say the first couple of loads you ever look up and you get
You're
denied.
like,
It's like
this is not
there
gonna
comes a
work.
point where it's like, can I just like, will you just like let me pull this? You don't have to pay me. I
No,
just need a loan under
a
my
hundred
belt, you know?
percent, a hundred
That's how
percent.
it
That's how it
feels.
was.
It's like, man, please, could I just get my first one under me?
I was like, bro, I'll literally give you $100
Suck.
back if you just let me put this on my truck. Like, I don't even care.
Yeah, right.
Take half the rate. I just need the picture for
It's
Facebook at this
crazy.
point, so people know I got a business,
Yeah,
okay? Like, come on, bro, you're messing with me. But
man.
now, I mean,
Yeah, it's rough.
there definitely is like kind of a load lifted off of you, and pun
Yeah,
intended, when you hit those 90 days. Because now,
yeah,
I mean, I I know that any load I call on, 95% of the time they're not going to say anything about my authority, and that is a pretty
right.
good
Yeah,
feeling,
yeah.
as long as it's my weight and dimensions,
Mhm.
I'm good to go. But yeah, I didn't
Right.
really have too much of problems at all. But yeah, continuing on with this though. So obviously you use a factoring company right now. Do you have plans of ever like not using a factoring company? I know that with cars you do a lot of cash on demand or ACH transfers.
Yeah. I
Um,
um I signed up. I got on with the factoring company, and I haven't used them since October when I switched to car. So I haven't because for whatever reason there's speculation and opinions about all this, but there's not a lot of the major players in the car game as far as like brokerages go and stuff um, that have a good credit rating for whatever reason. It's like a lot of people say it's like a bunch of scams and stuff. I don't know if that's the case. But I know I haven't been scammed. I haven't been scammed on anything, and I've hauled a ton of cars already. But a lot of them just aren't approved through factoring companies. So to avoid that and to just kind of open the door, and then of course you got your CODs and stuff like that, which you need to, if depending on the dollar amount, and they're going to send a 1099. You need to start invoicing that stuff and keeping track of it, right? So if you're going to do it to that, you might as well just say whatever. So of course, that's going to depend on your financial situation too. You're going to have to basically front. I didn't see money for a few weeks, right? Even though I was out there running my butt off, except for a few CODs. Um, so, but yeah, that's opening up the invoicing and all that. So I've actually have gone away from factoring. I'm all pure COD, ACH, checks in the mail. It's at this point now, it's like there's constantly money happening.
yeah,
And
yeah, yeah.
there's no rhyme or reason to it, right? Because everybody's got different days to pay and people are different distances for checks and stuff. It's pretty sweet, but
Every day you're getting a little
that'll
something.
probably halt to stop because I didn't work for a while at the end of
Oh,
December
it's
there,
stopping.
so it's
Don't
probably
worry
going to
about it.
stop
Yeah.
pretty soon.
You're like, just keep her
Yeah.
coming. I don't know where it's coming, but keep her coming.
Yeah, it's like I made more money sitting at the
Yeah.
house than I did last
I don't even
week.
work this week. I got to
Driving
check every
it.
day. You know what I'm saying? No, I
Yeah.
mean, I was talking to a guy of mine, and he was telling me how he did. I think he did like box truck or what. And he never used a factoring company
Mm,
because a lot of it was they just have transfers. They had a quick pay and stuff with all the brokers. And he was
yeah.
basically asking, "Do I need a factoring company with Hotshot?" And I'm like, man, yeah. I'm like, you definitely need a factoring company unless you want to
Yeah.
go and try and find all this money.
Watch watch some of those quick pays though, because sometimes they'll actually be less than your
Oh yeah,
factoring rate. So don't always, write those guys off like
yeah.
that.
I
Not saying you do. I'm just in
Yeah,
general.
for sure. I definitely look into it. I've seen a lot of the quick pays, and it's a quick pay to me is kind of funny because I'm like, so you're gonna take money from what you owe me to pay me faster? I'm like, what?
Right.
Like, how's that even work?
But if you let me sit on it, you'll
But
get all your money.
if I give you 30 days,
What?
I get everything.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. You might have to call and remind me, but I'll give it to you for
I
free, I
always thought about
promise.
that. I'm like, oh, I had a guy. Okay, this was hilarious. Okay, I gotta tell you about this what happened to me. So I booked this load, right? It wasn't that good of a load. I was just trying to get my guy to a certain area, right? I think we were moving a forklift.
Yeah.
It was $750, right? And we agreed on the rate, 750. I opened the rate con. Okay, it gives me three different payment options. Okay, it says $750, but I have to mail in all of the information, right? So the invoice,
Original.
he wants all originals. And it's like $725, but I can email all the originals. And then it was like $737. I can email all of the originals, but I don't know what it was, but I get a check instead of like a wire transfer. And I was like,
Yeah.
I was like, bro, we agreed on $750, dog. Like, I did
Right?
not agree on any stipulations on how I was gonna get my $750.
Yeah.
And then, I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, I'm just gonna mail stuff in, right? So I do the mail in thing, but I was pretty busy, so I sat on it for like 3 days, and I'm like, I can't let this extend, right? I need to get paid on this. So I'm like, whatever, I'll just
Right.
overnight the stuff, no worries. Go to UPS. I'm like, can we overnight this? And they're like, yeah, it'll cost $70. And I'm like,
Yeah. Right. You
like
can't
crap,
win.
it
Yeah.
will. I was like, you got a 2 week
Yeah.
option? And then that ended up being $10, you know what I'm saying? So I'm like, I don't even know I went to UPS to begin with. But I'm like, it ended up just being
Right.
$725. Like, oh, at the end of it, I was
Yeah.
so dead. I was so dead.
And that sucks too. Yeah, because I mean there was like no way to get your full agreed upon amount. That's terrible,
I was like,
man.
what is going on? I did not agree. You did not say, but and that's
Yeah.
that's a good tip, guys. Read your Raycons. Everything on the Raycon, read it.
Oh yeah.
And I have people change the Raycons all the time because like if it's a small item, and sometimes they forget to
Hmm.
change it from like a partial or a TL, like a total load, if they usually do TLs.
Yeah.
So if it's a small item, I always call them like, hey, can you send me back something that says partial on it? Can you send me back something that says it doesn't need to be tarped? Because like if we show up to the shipper and they're like, well, your rate card said it needed to be tarped, you showed up with it not being tarped, they'll take money from
Right.
you, man. Like they have so many stipulations on
You,
that Raycon. You show up 10 minutes late, that's $100. You don't send us the
yeah.
Raycon in 24 hours, that's $100. And then it's just like, guys, you really got to read that Raycon and be straight with it because they will definitely try and get you on that.
You'll run into the opposite of that a lot too. You'll run into where the uh the rate con swears up and down that this load has to be tarped absolutely 100%, and then the shipper's like, no,
Oh
you don't
yeah,
have to tarp that. We send that all the time and it doesn't get tarped. That's where you just like don't say anything, and then you call the customer and you're like, does this need tarped or not?
yeah,
And if whatever they say is who it matters to, right? Because see, especially in the summer, those those rate cons could have just been canned messages from like that winter. Because if you deliver up like in a lot of Michigan or Wisconsin and stuff like that, almost everything going up there has to be tarp between November and March. It seems like just to keep the road salt off of everything. It's kind of just like a generic message, but yeah, you definitely want everything to make sense.
for sure,
It's like you were saying, yeah, it can't. You don't want any cross information, and the only thing that matters is that you cover
for
yourself.
sure, 100%.
Yeah, because you're the one that's going to pay. It always goes down to the guy with the steering wheel. He's the end all say all or end all be all, I guess.
Yeah. Have you ever run into any problems with like not wearing your PPE when you're picking up? Because I know a lot of Raycons I read, they'll say like you'll say like we'll take $50 off if you show up without PPE. But I've never run into a problem before, and my guys are usually aren't wearing like steel toe boots or anything. Have you ever run into that problem before, or had somebody say something?
Um, I've been, I've kind of I got like a small talking to from some safety guy on a rig site for not having flame resistant clothing on FRs.
Yeah.
But other than that, no, I've never been docked for anything. I've actually gone. I was supposed to have. Let's see. I was delivering a load, and it was actually in Vernal, Utah. If
Vernal,
you know where that's at.
Northern Utah, buddy. I
Yeah.
know Vernal.
Yeah, I was delivering out there to a gas site, and I was supposed to have full FR. It's like all the big wigs, and I don't have any, right? But this load paid really good, so I went to Walmart and bought some Dickies
Yeah, I
coveralls, right?
got you. I
And
got you.
dude, I cut the Dickies logo off the pocket. And I rocked that up there. And this dude got out in like a polo and some shorts and just like the dumbest shoes on earth, and I'm like in boots and the big coveralls and stuff, and it's like 120 degrees outside. He's like, you don't have to wear that, and I'm like, you're kidding me right now. Right? It's like I just put all this crap on and it's so hot, and I went and bought all this stuff, and I cut the patch off, which took like 5 minutes. It's like I went through all these steps to try to trick you guys, and come to find out I didn't need it anyway.
Yeah.
So but I covered my butt, to the biggest extent. I mean, it's not like this guy's going to be like, "Where's your?" I'm going to have to see the tag. You take those off real quick. Let me see the tag. Make sure they're fire
For sure.
resistant.
Yeah.
It's not going to check.
Yeah.
That's where you just kind of look the part. Don't stand out in the wrong way. That's for
No.
sure. Don't stand out.
Yeah, 100%.
Not like that.
Yeah, I've seen that a lot, like the Raycon, like you guys will see it. I just know how I look at it. The Raycon talks like a huge game, talks a big game,
Mhm.
and you're kind of scared, you're not scared, you're kind of nervous. You're like, where am I delivering this
Yeah.
to, right? Like, what's going to go down? What's happening? You
Right.
show up, the customer, wherever you're shipping to or carrying to, is the nicest person in the world. They're like, what's up?
Yeah.
What's going down? How are
Yeah.
you doing? Like, let's get this off your truck,
Yeah.
bro.
It's
You
like,
need something to drink, man. I got some cold Cokes in the cooler. And you're like, this is the
yeah,
best day ever.
they'll have like strings of text that are just all
Yeah.
caps. Don't do this and don't do this. Don't breathe when you pull up. And it's like, yeah, you get there and it's like the most chill place
Like,
on
what
earth.
the
It's
heck
like,
is this?
what is that?
Yeah,
It's crazy. But it's a relief. It would really suck if it were the opposite. You know what I mean?
for
So
sure.
like, yeah, yeah, big reliefs like that are
Yeah.
awesome. And that's usually how it is. I mean, especially with the semi world, you'll go to a lot more kind of iffy places, like especially like chemical plants and stuff like that, like Dow and everything. I mean, Chevron, they're stupid straight. But then you come into hotshot land and it's just like, I don't know, even though it's a smaller scale and you're going the same spots, it's just from my experience, I haven't run across too many terrible people, and I used to see them, you know, most days in the semi aspect of everything. So it's a nice change of pace for
For
sure.
sure. Yeah, I think it's pretty different, guys. And I mean, with Hotshot, a lot of times you're going to be delivering to job sites. You're delivering to construction sites.
Hmm.
You're delivering to people's backyard. Hopefully, you're not
Yeah,
delivering any solar panel stuff to upstate New York, though. But I mean, it can definitely
yeah,
happen.
via bulldozer.
Yeah, for sure. It's crazy.
Oh my god.
But yeah, guys, go ahead. Start getting your questions in the chat. We're gonna start answering questions here quick.
Yeah,
So get those rolling. If you asked a question back in the chat, I probably missed it. So definitely ask it again. I know that Strong Hotshot had some words here. What did he say? Where's he at? I miss it.
was
He
that?
said most brokers say the check is in the mail today and you get it 3 weeks later. I'll find a load to your office
Yeah,
and pick the check up.
yeah,
But see, the thing with Strong though is all his checks are worth like $3 to $4 to $5,000. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah,
I'll definitely go there for that much. That's for sure. 100%.
yeah.
What else do we got here, guys? Thank.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you, man. COD sucks to keep up with, but I don't know. It's just there's something about it's just the ease of it
Yeah.
because you mark it paid and you file it when you take it home, right? Because I've actually stopped doing all my stuff day to day, load by load, because I've actually just, since like I said, I come home every weekend. I save all the crap through the week and I just do it all Friday night or Saturday morning when I get home. It's just like this is so much nicer because, like I said, with the cars, you're
You got a
rolling.
lot of them.
I mean, in 3 days last week, I had 6 loads. So, 3 cars one way, 3 cars the other. So
That's a lot.
there's a
That's a
lot of
lot of
stuff
checks.
happening really quick, right?
That's one thing I've seen with
So,
freight is, I'm the type of guy. I like the longer loads. I don't want to be filling out a ton of carrier
uh,
packets. In the long run, they help
I do
you
too.
out. But
As a driver, though, I did
yeah,
too because it's like, well, I got to pick this up today, but I get to chill and just drive tomorrow,
yeah,
and maybe even the next day, and then I have to unload some point this week. There's less paperwork you got to keep up with.
exactly. So
But
I know.
this partial city up here with cars, man.
Yeah, that's true.
But I love it.
There's a lot of cars
Still
everywhere
like
for
it.
sure. That's 100%.
Yeah.
But yeah, so one other question for you, Load Miser. So let's say you see a guy.
Yeah.
You how long have you had your own authority now? You're probably on month 7, 8,
My authority went live in August, so I'm going on what 6 months now.
6 months. Okay, so
Yeah.
let's say for example you have a guy who he's been in it for 3 months, and he's kind of struggling. He's doing a lot of the work himself, but he's not really grossing the amount of money he thought he was going to gross. He's
Yeah.
having some hiccups like we all do. Maybe his truck's been having a couple problems. He's ran through some trailer tires. What kind of advice can you give to that guy? You've been in this business for a long time. What would you say to somebody who's been in it for 3 months, has their own authority, really wants to
Yeah.
put the work in, build their business, but is just struggling super hard?
Right. Well, I mean, I would highly recommend reaching out, asking questions to people, like on this when you have time. And I know that when you're under pressure like that, it's hard to not be freaking out, and to actually kind of think clearly. But the biggest thing you want to do is stop, take tomorrow off or something. Sit down. Don't be home either. Sit down in your truck alone and figure out what is going wrong. You know what I mean? You have got to stop the bleeding somewhere because something's not right. If you can't make anything happen anywhere and this is consistent and you're spiraling out of control basically, you have to figure out what needs helped. And there are a lot of people that will help you. You could reach out. I mean, even if you're having a hard time booking loads, you could reach out to some people and they'll actually even offer you, you could do like a couple, you could get kind of an advance going with loads. I mean, there could be some people who'd be like, hey, I need your dispatch service, but I'm super bad off right now. I mean, that takes a lot of trust from that side. But there are people like, look, man, I'll book you a couple of loads as kind of like a feeler. If you like what I'm giving to you, then, and that's a good way to start a good relationship because that's just with the dispatching side of that. But if you're having issues with like, I don't know, man. See, if you're just getting tore up at the way stations and stuff like that, I mean, there's some ways that you can rectify that, but you're gonna pay for that dearly the next year.
Yeah,
When
you
renewal
drive past the
hits,
way station.
it's all gonna come back, man. Yeah, you have got to pay attention to so many things all the
Yeah.
time, and that's when a lot of people are asking me, "Hey, I'd really like to get into Hotshot. I like driving." It's like that's dude, driving is nothing.
Hmm.
That's literally like that's my break. My
Yeah,
break is driving the truck. Everything else is the job, and there's so many moving parts, man. And they don't stop. And it can be stressful. And that's where I said it's like the longer you're into this, the more you just become good at it, right? Okay, you start to understand all these aspects. That's why like I never really advise anybody to just jump into this.
hmm,
It, having a business in an industry you have no experience in isn't the best move. You know what I'm saying? Unless you're diversifying and you've got outlets elsewhere. So this is what's putting food on your plate. You need to have some experience in it. You know what I mean?
for sure.
So, and where do you get experience? If you were to ask me that in the semi world, I could tell you 50,000 different places. But in the hot shot game, it's like there's really not a ton of places to go. It's a lot of word of mouth. So just ask people, man.
Hmm.
Look people up on it. It's the hotshot community is very social media driven, I believe, because it's a lot of word of mouth and it's a lot of younger guys in here. I mean, I'm kind of on the upper end of the whole social
Getting up
media
there, bro.
world. I'm getting up there, and but it's cool though because it allows people to exchange ideas and to see each other. It's really neat. You get a there's a you can't view other industries like this. I think it's very unique the way it is. You can get a lot of help. You can get a lot of insight. You can get a lot of ideas. You just got to pay attention, but you have to be constantly researching. I check stuff out all the time, and it's not because I don't know it. It's because can this be done better than what I'm doing it? I always search for that. I need to streamline everything I can because like I said, you're doing so much every single day. And if you're doing most of it yourself without outsourcing it, yeah, it's going to be an expense, but how much time does that save you? It's like I'm actually thinking about putting out some feelers on a few of the things that I don't enjoy doing, like the back office stuff. I hate
Yeah,
it. I really do hate it. And what am I actually saving? Because if you think about it, whenever um, you wear all these hats, right? You make all this profit and you're keeping all your money because you're not paying anybody. But whenever you're bringing in all the money, you're generally still divvying out your pay as a driver. Okay. Unless I mean, you're a flow through, you go through the profit, but just hear me out on this. You're basing your pay as a driver. Okay. But what are you getting paid for the time you're a mechanic? Nothing. What are you getting paid for the time you're a dispatcher? Nothing. What are you getting paid for the time that you're invoicing paperwork? You're not, right? You're losing home time on that. You're not paying yourself for that. So really you're doing all these jobs for free and it's eating into your time, especially if you don't go home a lot or when you do go home, you're not there much. you want your time. So what's that worth to you?
Hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So
No, for
it's
sure.
like, I think you even said in the video, don't be afraid to outsource some of this stuff. It's not going to break you. You know what I mean? It's really going to free you up, because you don't want to get burnt out here and be miserable and stuck. It sucks. I've been there more than once too.
No, for sure. I think one thing I was talking about in my video too is expectations, guys. Like I don't drive the truck, and I feel like I have a lot of work to do. I mean, for one truck, like if
Mhm.
you're not driving the truck and you're just doing the back end for one truck, I mean, really, it's not too much work. I mean, obviously, you're going to be dispatching. If you can find a load early in the morning, there you go. Now you're on to the next day already. And then you're
Yeah.
just taking the invoices, taking the BOLs, you're making sure everything gets sent off, you're making sure you're receiving your payment. But like really what I've been doing sitting here at the desk is I'm just thinking about ways to grow, leasing on more guys, doing XYZ.
Mhm.
And if you're stuck in the truck all day, like maybe you might be thinking about that, but it's harder to break down the numbers. It's harder to see,
Yeah.
how exactly I'm going to do it, right? And I tell people all the time, I'm like, expect to use a factoring company when you start up. They're
Mhm.
they're a pretty big need. Like a lot of people aren't gonna pay,
Yeah.
are not gonna want to pay you, and they're gonna wait a long time. It takes it's a big help. Hiring a factoring company to help you out. And I broke down the pricing with it too. I thought, what would a factoring company cost on? I kind of broke down the pricing like on like 3 trucks, for example. Let's say I'm paying my factoring company $2,000, over the gross. Just for example, guys, I'm not sure if it's actually that much, or $2,700. Is a person who's willing to do all my invoices for me, call everybody, receive all my payments,
Mhm.
do some of the tax information for me. Is that person worth $2,700 a month if it was just one person? And I'm like, yeah,
Yeah.
that person's worth $2,700 a month. You know what I'm saying? That's basically what a factoring company is. So don't be scared to use it, guys. Obviously, we want to get to the point where we don't have to. Don't be scared to use brokers, guys. They're going to give you like instant customers a lot of time on the load boards. Don't be scared to use a dispatcher if you need it, guys. If you feel like that's a struggle for you, dispatching your own truck while you're driving it, outsource that at the
Yeah.
beginning. The best thing you can do is get in a good flow. Realize what works for you where you're at. Like me and Load Mizer have been
Yeah.
talking about. Your state's going to be a lot different than my state. You live here, I live
Mhm.
there. We're gonna operate differently. Hotshot's not the same for everybody a lot of times, but you got to find that out for yourself, and it may take months. It may
Yeah.
take 3 or 4 months of just breaking even before you realize I need to make a little
Yeah.
bit of a change. I need to do stuff a little bit
Yeah.
different. That's kind of how I look at it.
And another thing too is we all, generally speaking, most of us, start on the load boards, right? So you're gonna try to weed through brokers, and you're gonna find good ones.
Mm-hmm.
Just like, I mean, there's good and bad brokers. These guys aren't the boogeyman, okay? There's good and bad truckers. There's good and bad brokers. There's good and bad shippers and receivers. It's across the board, man. When you find a good one, get their number, okay? Be be like, treat that broker like you want them to treat you. And I mean, if they're hooking you up with runs, I mean, kind of like, don't marry a broker though. Okay, you don't work for them, and they could lose that job tomorrow and work at another brokerage that won't even deal with you, right? Okay, so don't put all your eggs in one basket on that. But when you find a good broker, hang on to them, okay? Because they've got more contacts than you're going to make in a year, right? They've got it right off the bat. And if they start to share those with you, if you got a couple of brokers in your pockets, you've got tens to hundreds of shippers and receivers in your pocket now, potentially. But with that being said, guys, when you first start, buy some business cards. That should be part of your equipment you buy, and hand those to anybody that writes on your paper, shipper or receiver. Start handing your cards out. Start handing your cards out, and you will start getting phone calls, okay? You can have a good relationship with a broker. You can, and I mean, the people won't call us backstabbing or whatever. I guess I'm the king of that, right? You can have a good broker all day, okay? But you don't work for them once again, okay? And it's not like you did them wrong or anything like that, but this whole direct stuff, look, if somebody can save money, or if you can make more money doing what you're doing anyway, who's going to benefit from that the most? You're still out here doing a job, okay? This industry is can be cooperative as it needs to be, but it is still somewhat cutthroat because it is every man for themselves, okay? You're not going to give me a load if it's going to put you out of business. And always remember that, okay? That works across the board, okay? You have to take care of yourself. but you don't have to be a pirate. You don't have to be nasty about it. You don't have to, that doesn't have to be your goal, but definitely, guys, if you can get your own contacts and your own cards out there, do it, because it's going to benefit you in the long run, especially for longevity. Okay. Because brokers come and go just like drivers come and go. So you may be undercutting that broker for a minute, but they could be gone the next day and you didn't have business cards anyway. And now guess where you can't load at? You're not going back to that place now, and you didn't put a business card out there. It's like, take care of yourself,
For sure. No,
and
100%.
prepare for the future. It's like I said, you don't have to be a pirate. You don't have to be nasty about anything, but take advantage of opportunity, because it's only going to benefit you. Okay. And that's all that matters at the end of the day is you and your company. It's, I can be as nice as I want to or rude as I want to anybody, but none of that will matter if I don't have that truck outside
Yeah,
tomorrow. None of that'll matter. I got 5 people in this house right now that rely on me. So as cool as J Love is, he don't pay my bills,
I don't pay the bills, guys.
and the same thing. I mean, everybody knows I've kind of got a little feeling about a certain individual, but at the end of the day, he doesn't pay my bills. So you have to take opportunity. Okay, you got to seize it,
Hmm.
but you have to be confident that what you're doing is, it's good for you. And you're not you don't have to burn bridges. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
I mean, you got the whole, like, what is it, may the bridges that I burn light my path, or whatever it is like that. But look, you got to understand that a spade is a spade in this industry. Okay. And um what you do for you is all that matters. Every single day, what you do for you is all that matters. Somebody can do you a favor, somebody can do you wrong, but what are you going to do about that tomorrow? That was yesterday. At that point, carry on. Just always be forward thinking on that. Take opportunities and prepare yourself by being forward thinking. It's like with the business cards and all that. You're not necessarily cutting out a broker, right? I mean, because if that company was willing to only do business with you, the next guy that comes in behind you and gives them their business card because you didn't, just cut both of y'all
for
out,
sure.
right? So take care of yourself and seize the opportunities on that,
No, 100%.
because you don't want to be living off the boards your whole career.
Yeah,
It's a nightmare.
for sure. It's definitely the game there. So right now, guys, we're gonna go to some of the questions. I have a really good question here, and I'd love to spend a little time answering it. Robert Simpson asks, "What is the best way to hire a reliable driver?" I can kind of go off that a little bit just because we actually just hired a new driver, and I'll kind of say the things I liked about the guy and why we hired him, what kind of pushed me to kind of move his way. And guys, there's a lot of people looking for a job in this industry. A lot of people want to drive. I think I put out just a couple posts on Facebook, and I probably had over 50 people hit me up trying to drive our truck. But I had one guy hit me up I had one guy hit me up a while ago, and he was basically asking me questions because he wanted to get his own setup going, and he had a CDL, he had worked in the oil fields, he had strapped loads down, like he knew a lot about the game, but he'd never done Hotshot before, and so, when I put that out there, he saw it, and he hit me up again. He's like, "Hey, man, I'd really love to be a part of the team, like this is what I'm doing right now, but I'd love to learn the ins and outs of the game, help you as well. I'd love to be able to, grow with you and your company." And I like that a lot, because I knew that he had higher or bigger aspirations than just drive for my business. And I knew that because he had those aspirations, that he was going to do a good job because he literally wanted that to be his future, right? Like he wanted to grow with us or grow on his own. And I think if you find somebody who is very goal oriented and not just wants to be a driver, they're going to be the best driver you've ever had. You know what I'm saying? Because they're going to want to learn everything. They're going to want to know everything. Um, Sorry, getting a phone call here, guys. And then they're going to work really hard because they want your business to succeed. So if you can find people that really want to see your business succeed and not them not just them making money, like they're going to do a really good job for you. And Load Miser, I don't know if you've had any experience with this. Obviously, I don't know if you've ever had to hire a driver before, but you have managed a fleet of trucks before, so you probably have.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
yeah.
I did a little hire and firing, and that kind of freaked me out because it was the first time I've been responsible for people's livelihoods, you know.
For sure.
So it weighed a lot on me, and I think that the biggest thing about that is like you said, you know, you want people that are invested in your business, not just a job, right? You don't want people that just want to be employed because if you make them mad, or if just the industry makes them mad, which is easy to do today, you know, they could be looking for another job tomorrow, and it's nothing to them, you know. But if you have somebody that's interested in you, and I think that the key things that play off that is that you want to keep morale in the focal point of your brain and your business, right? Because if your guys aren't happy or they don't feel a connection, and I'm not saying a friendship, because like I said, I mean, you got to fire these people sometimes, or you know, you can't get walked on, right? But you don't want to be a you don't want to be a pushover, but you don't want to be like a tyrant either. Okay, there's a fine balance there, but you got to keep people happy, man. And this is an easy industry, especially, you know, with the local stuff. It's a little different, but with like over the road stuff, I mean, it's you'd be having a great, awesome day where you're at, you know, there in your office in Utah or whatever, and there could be a guy just losing his mind in Wyoming
Yeah.
about to get rocked, you know, and they're shut down at a you know truck stop or something because they closed the interstate. You know, it's you have to take people's situations, you know, when you're managing drivers, or even if you're hiring people, you know, if you do have employees, you know, their needs are very important. Their wants, sometimes you can some people needs and wants are very different. But if you handle people's needs and make sure that, you know, they're heard, I think that's all a lot of employees want, especially truck drivers, you know, drivers that just get in here and want to be told where to go. And they, you know, that's all they want. They want to drive a truck. They want you to let them know where they're going, and they want to just make money. That's it, you know. They're easy to please, man, and they're it's you just they need to be heard. That's it. You know, you got to pay attention to those people because they'll stick with you forever. You know, if but they can't be treated like they're you know exposable
Hmm. No, for sure.
or expendable.
Expendable. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, yeah, that's completely right. I hope we can answer your question there. A lot of good information coming from that. I mean, definitely just find somebody who wants to grow with you, who they believe in you as much as you
Mhm.
believe in them. And I think that's something that's really important. Michael asks, what's the heaviest load you guys have put on your trailer while doing freight, CDL or non-CDL? I have a pretty funny story. So currently we have two non-CDL setups right now and looking to hire on a CDL setup right now. But our first week ever, we were newbies in the game. I think it was our third load. We actually loaded up and we were overweight, of our non-CDL. I think we were sitting about 27,500 pounds. And I don't want to get into the whole story about what happened afterwards, but all I have to say is that that was probably the heaviest we've ever put on our trailer. But one thing to realize, guys, with non-CDL is you're going to be maxing out those axles a lot of times. So like
Mhm.
your max weight you can haul usually is around 9,700 pounds. But if you only have like 14,000 pound axles or maybe 16,000 pound axles, you're going to have 14,000 pounds over those axles a good amount of times. And if you derate it to 12, obviously you got to work around those numbers. But you guys got to realize that's one thing, that's a problem with the non-CDL hotshot. Those trailers, a lot of times, because I mean, if you do CDL hotshot, there's a lot of times you're not going to max your weight out. But with non-CDL, to get a total load and to really make the money, a lot of times you're going to be maxing your weight out. And I've seen that from just booking loads. I've seen a lot of times where I haven't. But yeah, that's probably the heaviest I've ever been
Yeah.
on my load ever. It was about 11, would have been about 11,000 pounds or so. I don't know for you, load miser, what's the heaviest you've ever been?
Heaviest I was ever been was on accident because I picked up a preloaded. This was when I was a semi. I picked up a preloaded trailer. I had the air suspension gauge in the truck, right? So I moved the axles or slid the tandems to where, you know, my pressure gauge had me right at about 33, 34 on the drives. And I was legit because the trailer was to the point it was supposed to be. It weighed the weight that it was supposed to be in, this is pre-sealed at a port, okay? So before anybody says anything about that. And I got in the paperwork. The paperwork was in kilograms, okay? It was supposed to be like, it was like 16, and then when you multiply that by pounds and all that, it's still kind of, it was supposed to be like 30 something thousand pounds, right? I take that from Savannah, Georgia, all the way through Macon, all the way up through Atlanta and everything. And this was going to Lebanon, Tennessee, just outside, just east of Nashville, right? I get up to Ringgold, Georgia. I'll never forget the name of that place because I sat at that weigh station for 2 days. Pulled across the scale because they were finally open because I was running all this overnight. Didn't weigh it, like I said, because the suspension max, it matched. It was fine. I knew I wasn't
Yeah.
overweight. Just thought I wasn't. I get on the scale. The guy asked me over the loudspeaker, he said, "Do you have an overweight permit for this state?" And I said, "No." He said, "Pull off to the side and bring your paperwork in." I come inside and the guy shows me the scale trap that he had me on. It was 94,100 pounds. I was 14,100 pounds over on my
Oh my
trailer.
gosh.
The reason my drives were legal is because this trailer was going to Old Navy in Lebanon, Tennessee. Not the store, the
Uh-huh.
warehouse. Nose to tail full of jeans, boxes of jeans, right? There was so much overhang past the tire or past the trailer tandems that it was actually
They're
lifting
like
up
lifting it
on
like
the
that. Yeah.
drives, right? Yeah, and that's why I was legal on my drives. That sucked because then I had to wait for a day and a half. Well, I mean, it spanned 2 days, but it was really a day and a half for another company to come and take 14,100 pounds off of my truck. So that sucked. And that was a $900 bill. If anybody's wondering what 14,100 pounds over cost you in Georgia in 2014. So
Good to know. Good to know, guys.
900 bucks.
Now we know.
Yeah.
Awesome, guys. So AZ Holler asks, do you hire a driver with your equipment or do you hire people with their own equipment? So we do have a lease on right now. He brought us on his own truck and he's working on getting a trailer. We actually ended up buying another trailer and we're renting him the trailer basically so he can use it now. And then the driver we just hired is for our own setup. So he drives with all of our equipment. We buy everything for him. He is an employee of the company. He's not a 1099. So that's one thing too. I was talking with kind of hauling cash about is the whole debate between being an employee and being a 1099 and how people want to 1099 their drivers, but the drivers are actually employees and people are getting away with not having to give them health insurance. It's a whole different topic to get into at a different time. But, I've there's a lot of rules that go into that, guys. And so if you're driving, especially for our company, if you're a driver for our company, you are an employee. If you're a lease on, you are 1099. So it's pretty typical there.
I'm interested in on Hallstar. If you hire a CDL driver, you must have IFTA now.
Yeah, I haven't heard
Um,
that yet. We just,
yeah, I don't. I know that if you hire a CDL driver and let's say you're a non-CDL company, right, you do have to register with the clearinghouse
mhm.
because you do have a CDL
Yeah,
driver. But for IFTA, that's not based on the driver credentials, guys. That's the
that's a
truck.
rating, isn't
If
it?
you're a portion with,
Portion, yeah.
yeah, if you have portion plates crossing state lines and of course, register over 26K, that's the requirement for IFTA. Not the drivers. Of course, they would have to have a CDL to drive a vehicle registered with IFTA, but that's not the. If you have a guy in your company that has a CDL, um,
Good old drug and
let's
alcohol
see, yes,
clearinghouse.
non-CDL.
There you go.
If yeah, they'll have to have IFTA for the truck he's driving. Well, I mean, if you're hiring, okay, are you hiring or leasing on a CDL
So I have
setup? I think that might be the confusion there.
no. Okay, there it is right there. If
Yeah.
he's operating over 26,001 pounds.
Right. Yeah.
So okay, so this is
Right.
what it is. Yeah. So we're not. I wouldn't say we're a non-CDL company, right? So like a lot of people get this all mixed up. It's all based off your ratings, right? So you can be a company, you can have a non-CDL setup, so it's basically just a truck and trailer rated for 26,000 pounds or lower. Or if I have a CDL driver that I hired and he's operating a vehicle with the gross vehicle weight rating, a combination of over 26,000 pounds, 26,001 pounds and up, obviously he's going to have IFTA and apportioned plates. So yeah, so we're
Yeah.
not a
Yeah,
non-CDL
that's like
company.
the guy said if he's leasing on with CDL,
Level
What do you
equipment.
say?
Level
Leased
equipment.
on us a
Yeah,
truck owner,
exactly.
right? Yeah, because
Yeah, yeah.
when I was leased on a tow piglet, right, he's obviously not CDL and he's not set up for that. I ran my Kentucky,
Mm-hmm.
even though he's in Texas, right? The only thing that was his on my truck was the numbers and, you know, the number and the company name on my door. Those were my plates, my IFTA stickers, my responsibilities to keep up with all that. Didn't tie into him whatsoever.
Yeah, for sure. No, that's definitely important. There we go. Now we're on the same page, guys. And that's something that's been a
Yeah.
problem we have is um, since we have my business is out of Missouri, right? We live in southern Utah. I have an Alaskan driver's license. My co-owner has an Alaskan driver's license. We register all the trucks in Alaska. So when I tried to get IRP, because we were going to go CDL out the gate, they're like, "Whoa, hold up, bro! Like, what's going on here?" And Missouri's like, "Why aren't your trucks registered in Missouri? Why don't you guys have Missouri driver's license? Can you even prove you actually live in Missouri?" And I'm like, "Well, now that you put it that way, I don't think we're getting IRP." But then when we had Holland Cash on, we talked a little bit about IRP and everything, and he told me about basically what you did with Tow Piglet, right? You had your own apportioned plates. You put their business as the business in charge of safety, and then you
That's
run your
all
own
they
thing.
are.
Yeah,
Yeah. In
exactly.
charge of safety.
So that kind
Yep.
of opened up my mind. It's like I don't even need to have apportioned plates really. And then I thought, I was like, well, if they can do that, why can't I just open another LLC? Like where I'm currently at, right? And then have my LLC currently own the other LLC, and I can have my portion plates through that LLC. If that makes any sense. But yeah, so I was
Right.
talking to
It's
Holland Cash.
almost like a weird umbrella
Yeah, it's like
LLC.
I'm leasing on, a company to give me a portion plates,
Yeah.
right? So that's kind of what we're working on right now and all of that. So let's keep going here. We'll probably answer one more question, then we're going to close up here, guys. Um, so AZ Hauling asks how I pay my driver. I can answer that real quick. We pay him 43 cents per mile weekly. If anybody has a question, we'll probably take one last question, guys. Do you want to drop it down in the chat here, and then we'll close up?
Yep. Uh,
Let's see here. I kind of do want a good question. Not that if I'm not reading a question, it's not because it's a bad question, guys. Don't take it like that.
I'll answer one real quick here. Pros and cons of getting portion plates through Enterprise. You don't get them through Enterprise, okay? You're going to get them through your state, but they're going to give you a copy of their, and they're going to give you a front and back copy of the title, and that's it, okay? You're going to have to do everything else through your state. It's a super pain in the butt. It sucks. There's like 2 states that won't let you do it. Actually, I think Wisconsin's one of them. So definitely talk to Enterprise before you plan on going a portion, because your state may not let you do it. So sorry, go ahead.
Oh, here's a good one right here. We can talk about rates just for a second. We'll end on this question, guys. When do rates historically go back
Okay.
up? So, Little Miser, you've been around the block. You've done
Mhm.
semi, done hotshot. When have you seen the rates be the best during the year?
There's always a lull, okay? Wintertime is always going to dip super hard because a lot of flatbed freight, which is what we typically haul, right? A lot of that is construction based, okay? And a lot of construction is based on weather and time of year. Um, so, generally speaking, your October month is going to be very sporadic every year, okay? November, December, January, February. You can pretty much just expect to struggle a little bit in those months because freight is not abundant. It could be spotty. It depends on where it's at though. Freight could look awesome if you're sitting in Detroit right now, and it could look terrible if you're in Dallas, okay? And that could change tomorrow. It could be the exact opposite in both spots, okay? But generally speaking, from about April to May, mid-April, mid-May, it starts to ramp back up, okay? June, July, August, even September, you've got some solid months there to where freight is just booming. And it even still happened last year, regardless of what was going on. It still happened, which shocked me. So eat that summer frenzy, don't plan on going on vacation so much, you want to get out there and get you some of that because there's good money to be had in the summer. That's flat out hands down happens every single year. So
Get it while it's hot,
even with a
guys.
pandemic. That's
Way
right.
to well shot. Awesome, guys. I want to thank you guys so much for being in this live stream with us. You know how much it means to me having you, Load Miser, here with us and having everybody.
Yep.
I'm getting another phone call. Please stop calling me. But it's always a pleasure, guys. You know, I love you guys so much, and I'm so happy I'm able to do these live streams with people who want to learn about the business and kind of just help people understand more. You know, every week we try to have somebody different on. You know, Load Miser had a lot of information about car hauling, had a lot of information about the enterprise truck rental stuff we haven't even talked about yet. And I want to thank everybody in the chat who came over from his channel to watch this. You guys are awesome. If you're not subscribed to Load Miser or anybody in this chat, go subscribe to his channel. If you guys want to subscribe to my channel, you can if you want to as well. You know, do
Yeah.
it. Do it if you have a
Now,
chance.
I'll interrupt you real quick. I recommend everybody does because I think, just for what brief conversations we have, I think that you've got a really unique take on this. You're kind of like you're absorbed into the industry, but you've got that outsider's perspective that a lot of us drivers and potential drivers just we don't have, right? Okay, because we're in it under here. But you can kind of like you're almost like outside looking in. You can I like what you're doing. I really do. And I think I wish you the best, man. I really do. And I think that you're gonna do well because you've got a very unique take on this industry as a whole. And I think what you're doing is a good thing. I really do.
Awesome. Thank you so much,
Yeah, I
Load Miser.
appreciate you having me on here.
Pleasure's mine, guys. We love you guys
Mhm.
so much. Subscribe to our channels, watch our videos, help us out because we do it for a reason, and that's to help you guys. Thank you guys so much. Have a good night.